Yeah, so treble, from the M line, Perth, Midland line. Pretty much spray paint's my base medium. I'll use acrylics now and then, airbrush and stuff for commission work, but pretty much it's all spray paint all the time and lots of black. It was my older brother. He wrote when I was young. I think I did my first tag when I was 9. We just walk around, had a bit of an interesting household that we came from, so if we had to get out of the house, that's what we do, just walk around the laneways and drop tags and hang out, but never really took it seriously at all. It was just fucking what we did. Had no idea about the hip hop culture or anything like that till probably I got into high school. Um, but then there was other people doing it, and then I discovered Aussie hip hop, and then it just sort of got out of control from there. It was just a lot of tags and throw-ups through my teenage years. And then once I got a bit older, out of high school, I started piecing, and now I would say I mostly piece, and I like doing marker tags. Um, why I keep doing it, I think it just gives me my purpose, really. I don't know what else the fuck I do. I'm not really a sporty person or anything like that. This has been my one thing that I seem to have got the knack at. I've got community, friends. Pretty much my whole life is revolved around painting. Met my partner through painting. I don't have any friends that aren't somewhat involved in painting or something like that. So it's sort of just taken hold. I don't see myself ever stopping. I don't know what I'd do if I did stop. It's good for my mental health sometimes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Man, I think back then, like, we didn't have quite as much internet, and even, like, at my house, fucking, the computer was always occupied by my mum, so I was not really getting on any of the 12 ounce or anything like that. It was what we saw around the area, which at the time was a lot of the apes crew, like NASA and Delay and Tubes and stuff. They're all, M-liners, so growing up seeing them and what else you'd see in the city, like Slam and stuff, that sort of traditional Perth style of being quite aggressive. Always quite like that. It just had a lot more of an impact than I think most other styles. And I think us as a crew with Dwiz, we've all sort of um, headed towards that same vibe of like hard letter styles and aggression. But yeah, I reckon the Apes dudes for sure were at the top of my list. Other dudes that were pumping it like Duso and stuff, like, you gotta give that dude credit. He did take me out and show me how to paint the line when I was sort of 16. He was pumping it, but it was all around sort of the area, and also cunts that purely tagged that were younger and just had the freshest hands. You know, you got like Virus, Fibzo, all those type of dudes that just hold down the bombing side. So I think when I was young, they were the dudes around. That was the influence. Yeah, so Dwiz is Kamia's crew originally. Fucking, I think was, what did we just tick over? 11 years old, 12 years old or something like that now. It's been a while. I actually met all those dudes through Shadow. So me and Shadow were making music when we were young, and he knew Cleanse, and then I met Cleanse, and then met Kamir through Cleanse, and we just started hanging out and kicking it, and just fucking painting flat chat. I would have been 18, 19, before I really sort of found my own style at that point. Just vibed really well. We're on the same sort of shit. Loved our Aussie and UK hip hop. Both smoking, like all of us smoking a lot of weed and just pumping spots and then being completely carefree, um, which was dope. I think, you know, Kamir had some pretty gnarly car accident and he came along with Dwiz when he was in hospital recovering from that. And yeah, I mean, we've had members come and go, but the core people have sort of remained. You know, there's not many of us now, but I think the ones that are in it hold down the name pretty well, and we all have a similar sort of style and, you know, focus on aggression and a lot of textures and sort of grimy darkness and layers and popping colours in there as well, you know, but sort of pushing letter forms, in my opinion anyway. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much the story of Dwiz simply. It was just being young and all having the same passions and yeah, stuck it out and it's just remained. See, that question was a tricky one. I was thinking about that. I suppose it's very dependent on, you know, any piece that I rock that I feel do a little happy dance at the end, or I'm like fucking standing there at the wall taking 500 photos of it because I'm like, fuck, that came out sick. Is each one of them is I'm super proud of. You know, I've been involved in some pretty cool projects like the Art Gallery of Western Australia and stuff like that, and being put into exhibitions and invited by people to be part of an exhibition is always quite a humbling thing. You know, so they're always a good achievement, but honestly, just getting out with the crew and pumping a piece where I can stand back and be like, fuck, that came out exactly how I imagined. That's probably my proudest moment over any of the other things. The other shit doesn't really matter. It's all about just painting and getting spots. All those other things are quite niceties and it's appreciated, but there's nothing better than just pumping something and it comes out how you wanted and you're like, fuck yeah, I rocked that good. You know, like I think they're the proudest achievements. All the rest is just paint lots. Paint as much as you possibly can. As much as you possibly can. Try and keep your ego in check. When you're young and you're pumping spots, even if they're not that good, you get an ego because you're just like, I'm so active. But just try learn, take criticism from people that you respect, sketch as much as you can, paint as much as you can, because the more you learn the tool, the easier it is to experiment. You got to learn all the rules before you start breaking them. I fucking barely ever sketch. I probably would have saved me a lot of time and money if I had sketched more when I was younger. Kamia, he sketches flat chat, you know, and his style's fucking nuts, you know, so there's something to be said for it. But my advice, just paint as much as you can. The more you paint, the faster you'll progress. Try not to fucking worry about all the other nonsense of fucking clout and beef and drugs and stuff. We've all been there and done it, but fucking just focus on the art, focus on the culture, focus on painting. All the other shit doesn't matter. Fucking don't do meth. Fucking discontentness, I think it's sort of a curse of an artist. You're never going to be completely happy because you're always going to want to achieve or do more or be more, or, you know, it's quite a competitive culture where you always want to, you try to be the best or you want to be up the top with the best or whatever it may be. But that can really negatively impact other parts of your life. You know, at the end of the day, you are breaking the law. You are going to get charged. I've been charged, you know, a few times, which is tricky if you're trying to hold down a career at the same time. Trying to maintain healthy relationships as well. It can be all engulfing, and you do just hyper focus on painting. That's probably the hardest bit, is trying to maintain normal life as well as painting life and not slipping too far into just the straight painting and not giving a fuck about anything, because that doesn't turn out well for you long term. And that constant drive to do more and be better, which is a double-edged sword. It motivates you and it does push you to be better, which is what you fucking need. You can't be complacent, but at the same time, never being content with anything you do is a fucking bit of a head fuck too. So it's not so much all the other beef and shit. That stuff's pretty fucking chill, but it's the mental aspect, I think, of being a driven artist. And I think that's outside of graffiti. I think that's in anything, whether it's music or anything. Being a driven artist can be a bit of a fucking head fuck. Yeah, I think more so now I've really enjoyed trying to use textures and trying to get texture and depth and stuff like that. Using a bit more fading of colours to really pop out and push back areas and understanding more contrast. I've never done any study as an artist at all, ever, so it's all been quite self-taught. So it's been nice sort of realising that to make things brighter, you sometimes need to make things darker, if that makes sense. Using like splatters, making my own type of caps to really try get some pop and texture and sort of griminess. It's hard to explain. Scratching the wall, I suppose, with the spray can, but then dusting back over the top to soften up the hard edges, and really trying to experiment with bringing the piece to life and incorporating more sort of abstract techniques, I suppose. I've fucking really been enjoying that, but it fluctuates. Then after a while I'll be doing all this abstract stuff and I'm like, fuck, I need to go back to doing more hyper-realism, dusty stuff. And then I'm like, oh, I've been doing that too long, I want to go back to the grimy thing, which is the best bit about graph, is it's a never-ending sort of pursuit of, you know, learning. In the future, there's this deep feeling like I should be moving towards doing more art, like, you know, traditional art, and using canvases and maybe moving into other mediums and really trying to bring my loose abstract style to a canvas and, you know, putting it towards something that's maybe a bit more sustainable or a bit more longevity that I can actually keep. It's not just going to get buffed or capped. But I've been saying that shit for fucking years and I still seem just to be out painting spots because that's what makes me happy. So I think I just need to, you know, when I'm ready to change and move on to something else, I will. Not so much pressure on trying to jump around, but we'll see. I think it's for positives and negatives with the Perth scene, really. You know, when I was younger, there was definitely a lot more crime and violence involved, I think. You know, there was a lot more staunchness, which is good because it keeps people in check. And I think if you get punched in the mouth, like, it is a good learning experience. You you realise there's always somebody bigger and badder, but at the same time, it's limiting to hip hop too. You know, I think traditionally it's not what hip hop was traditionally about. I think it's a bit more a culture of community and stuff when it first began. Obviously, ego was always there. It's just sort of part and parcel with it. So it's a tricky one. I miss the grimy, sort of more staunch side of it, and I respect people that still hold that down in this day and age, because we're so like, well, you can't say that, you can't upset this person, where really, graffiti is meant to be a contact sport, it is meant to be competitive, there's a lot of testosterone and ego involved, but at the same time, like, you don't want to be the cunt hating on the young dudes that are just, you know, trying to make their name and, you know, learn, and it's much better to sort of harbour that and encourage their passion, because that's going to make the scene grow and more diverse in itself. So it's a tricky one. Like, there's part of me that loves the hectic side, and also I realise that it's actually not good for the culture in general. So yeah, but some cunts should get a punch in the mouth a bit more often, I personally think. I think a lot of my influences honestly are from the crew. Like, I got to give big love to Kamir and stuff like that. Like, he's always been somebody that, you know, when we're painting, we can bounce ideas off each other and be like, do you think this would work? Would that work? And it's just like a really good learning process when we paint together. I think having a solid crew of people that you can paint together with is like, it's invaluable. It's so good. If you get a good crew of people that are trying different things and encouraging each other, it's fucking mad. I still have the same sort of influences. Like, I still love Slam. I still love NASA's shit. Yeah, much love to Crisis too. Swords, that cunt is an artistic fucking powerhouse and a good person. He's definitely in spro of like not caring too much about the scene and stuff and just doing art and loving art. Like, I got a lot of respect for that dude. Internationally wise, well, obviously fucking LA shit. Anything LA, anybody doing grimy stuff like that, Buga, Orgor, fucking Asada, all those cunts, it's fucking fresh, super fresh. When I was younger, Planet Video had a copy of Infamy, and I used to rent that thing out like a Bible and watch it. And obviously Saber was in there, and seeing Saber's stuff was just mind blowing, you know. So I think that had a lot of influence on me as well, you know. But Perth traditionally always had an aggressive style. It only was around the 2013 mark where it changed to Euro, but everything before that, from when it started, from even like Shime and Dash, is all very aggressive letter structures, you know, very strong letter structures. So I think it got lost with the introduction of internet a little bit, but it's definitely making a comeback, which is fucking dope. I think I'd have to say the one in the drain with Haw or Crow. He's a Queensland writer, but he was living in Melbourne at the time. I had my mate Straff that was over from Berlin. He came to visit and we went over to Melbourne together. Never met the dude before. The fucking glory of Instagram, Teo, which is great. We chatted on there for a while beforehand. Linked up with him. He went down and we had to go through all these drains to get to this big open area that was completely flooded at the time. In the flick, the water's receded, but we're out there barefoot with a pole in between the two walls, trying to shimmy across to paint it. And I just think the colour scheme and the styles match super nice. It's still running now. I don't know when that was. That would have been 2016 or something like that. It's still running in Melbourne, which is dope. I think our styles just complement each other really nicely, colour scheme, and the fact that he didn't know me from a bar of soap, linked with me, took me this mad clean spot out. I don't even know where it was. We got to adventure through some drains, which is something you never do in Perth. We just don't really have that system, or if we do, they're tiny. It was just a really cool day with people dudes from Queensland, dude from Germany, me there, all just jamming with the same style. It's that good essence of hip hop. Also, the panel from Berlin's pretty dope too. Don't think there's much surprise here. But the brother Crisis, of course, absolute fucking weapon in many, many ways. People that know, he's a pretty stand-up dude. I can't give the bloke enough credit. He is the embodiment of a proper artist, you know. You can do everything. He's blessed my body with a few pieces of artwork when he's been tattooing. Sadly, he's given that up now to move on to other things, but he can rock burners, he can rock dope hands, he can rock fresh throw-ups, he can do realism, neo-trad. He's just a all-round good artist and a fucking good person and a good friend. So yeah, much love to him. You know, I traditionally did the sort of traditional letter structure fill first, outline second, 3Ds, all that type of thing. And it never clicked. It would just never look quite right. My proportions would always be a little bit off. Like I really struggled with it. But then one day I was like, all right, I need to go back to basics, start with what I was good at, which is tags. So then I just started doing really big tags, fatting them out, outlining them, and then just sort of cutting back in and putting spikes and stuff like that. You'll see early stuff, all the edge of my letters were just triangles, and all the edge of my letters were circles. Then I added spikes, but it was all just from doing giant tags and sort of taking it back to basics and starting again and completely fresh slating it. And going on what I was good at, and that was doing tags. So I just did massive tags, outlining them, and slowly over time I've added a little bit more spikes, a little bit more texture, and it's just evolved into what it is. But it was that point of realizing like I was easily the worst in the crew, for sure. And I was like, it's not working. Something's just not clicking. And once I started trying to break the rules where, you know, now I do my outline in 3D first, and then my fill and, you know, all my doodads, and then my highlights rather than the traditional, you know, filled and outline. Breaking those rules and trying different things, and it clicked. And I don't know, around 2017 was just like explosive creative juices where it really got on a roll. So that for me is always going to be the pivotal moment in my style of how it is where it is now. Well, probably I don't think it's not the panel in this book, but it was on that same trip in Berlin. We'd done it end to end, like a few days earlier, and some other dudes were over with a big group from Perth. Other dudes tried to get over on a U-Bahn and wasn't successful, and we'd painted this yard and it was fucking chill as, so they wanted to go. I wasn't originally going to take him, somebody else was, but then they bailed, so I was like, yeah, I'll take his. Anyway, we get to the yard, it looks way too good, and in the GoPro footage, you even hear me say, Mike, man, I don't know about this looks too good, and they're like, no, it's sweet. I was like, oh. Sort of ummed and ahed, but they hadn't got one over. They were about to leave, and I was like, we'll run it. Anyway, it was a sting. The cops had it set up. We finished painting, got a flicks. We're walking out, and on the GoPro footage, you hear one mate say, let's get out of Compton, out of the NWA movie. And the second he said that, we stepped around this corner, and it was just like, police, police, police. I turned around, and I fucking gapped it. I may have had a little bit of a, helping hand in my athletic ability at that time, it being Berlin. And I got away for a good hour or so. I ripped off all the clothing that I was wearing on my jacket and skiv and gloves and threw them in this frozen river. Didn't know what happened to the other boys because they ran at the cops, wasn't my idea. So I turned around and ran into this randomised bushland in the middle of fucking the German winter. Anyway, it was going good. There's people coming out into their balconies with torches. I was hiding behind some trees. I sort of cleared my phone of anything that would be a bit too sus. And I was like, man, this might be going okay. Like, I might get away from this. I thought about swimming across the river, but the river was mostly frozen. So I was like, if I do that, probably will die from hypothermia because I don't have anything to dry myself. But there was one bridge up ahead that crossed the river, but I was pretty sure the cops would be on that road waiting for me to pop out there. But I was feeling confident. I was like, maybe I can just hide out here for a while. And then I just heard this like toof, 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 toof. And I pretty much knew I was fucked at that point. And it had a helicopter out there, a police chopper. Yeah, and that was circling around. And I think at that point, I kind of knew that the jig was up and I wasn't going to get away from a helicopter on foot. Anyway, started strolling over to the bridge. As I started strolling over the bridge, I saw all these figures start running down the track towards me. So I did the old turnaround. I started to run the other way, and then there was two cops there, and tried to give them the old German accent, hello. And they didn't have a bar of that. They pulled out their flick buttons and were yelling at me to get on the ground, which I did, because I don't want to get fucking made piss. And then they just kept yelling at me saying, Australian or American. I give the old, I don't understand. They're like, you fucking understand, are you Australian or American? And I was like, Australian. So anyway, they chucked me in a car. I didn't understand the whole American thing. They chucked me in a car, went to this servo, took me out, opened up this van. One of the other mateys is in there. Then there's this random fucking little bald cunt in a leather jacket and like Doc Martens. He was the American. This poor prick had just got bum rushed off the street, had nothing to do with anything, and just got bum rushed by cops and dragged into this van thinking that he was the third person. Other matey had actually got away. Oh, it was so funny. He was sitting in the cell asking for cups of coffee. He had no idea what was going on. I felt so bad for him, this fucking poor American. He's the least writerish looking person you could ever see, but apparently he was nearby, so they just tackled him. Anyway, spent like 24 hours in the cell. got the old naked strip search and all that fun stuff. And then they released us 24 hours later, and the next day I went to Italy. Well, bailed out of Germany, copped a bit of a fine, but yeah, it wasn't very funny at the time. The missus wasn't too happy because we were on a holiday together, but now it's a good story. It's a good laugh, but yeah. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. That's a takeaway of that story. Music is something that, man, I think I first started rapping when I was like 13 or 14. I just loved hip hop. It wasn't really cool at that point. I was rapping over Snoop Dogg beats and all that cool stuff at home. And it's just progressed. I was probably, if anything, more into the music than I was into graph when I was a teenager. It's kind of flipped around now a little bit, but for those that know, I'm working on my 5th album now. I was in a group. Prior to that, we released 3 albums. I released my last one, Criminal Damage, under TREBLE. It's on all platforms. You can scope it, and I'll hopefully have another project out this year. It's just another side of the culture, you've got all your elements of hip-hop. I'm definitely not breakdancing or DJing, so graph and rap is a good thing, and I think, gives back to younger heads, gives them something to listen to. It's just another medium of self-expression, really. Telling your stories. I've come from a bit of a different sort of upbringing and background, and I've been around for a little while now. I feel like I'm getting older and older as time goes, so there's a bit more to say and stories to tell about. I encourage anybody to get into any form of creative outlet, music, art, anything. I think it's really good. It's good for the soul. I can see maybe we'll stop at one point in time. When that is, I don't know. I'd love to get into actually producing and making beats and stuff. That looks really interesting, but I've got a fucking busy schedule. My cup is half full all the time with all my projects going on, so maybe once I finish with the rapping, I'll move on to some sort of production. But I suppose all love to crew, Dwis crew, DWS. Much love to Camille, Adios, Sane, Onya, Crisis. My probably advice for youngins, just stay humble, paint as much as you can, try keep your ego in check, try not get a habit, and yeah, just do your thing. Don't listen to all the other fucking bullshit, just paint as much as you can. It's all about painting. If you stay consistent and you paint as often as you can, you will get your respect. Don't expect people to give you respect. If you ask for respect, you are not going to get it. You just need to do your thing, paint as often as you can, stay consistent, and it will pay off. Just trust in the process. Cheers.